This platform is for one race, human and independent thinkers. So if you identify as anything else or get your thoughts from your handler, this platform is not for you. For those who have their own open, independent mind, welcome to We Act the Truth. I'm your conversationalist, Excel. This platform is presented to encourage you to be a better you using your own mind and common sense. I like to add that I will be using basic terms and may not always be verbally correct because most of my deliveries are not scripted. I also like to add that I identify as one human, but I will be identifying us as we have been labeled to simplify some of the topics that we'll be discussing on this platform. Topics such as education, knowledge, history, sexuality, relationships, love, and hate, just to name a few. I'm going to start this out with a clarity test. Let's say this sheet of paper represents your life, and everything on it is what you're dealing with in your life. I'd like to ask you to navigate yourself through your life and see what needs immediate attention, what you need to improve on, what is just fine in your life. But before you do, I'd like to ask you to allow me to bring you and your life together as one. I'll do that by connecting the two of you. Now I'm asking you to navigate yourself through your life. Can you see your life clearly? It's difficult? How about now? When you are able to remove you from your life, you're able to see yourself clearly, you're able to see your life clearly. So, i.e., you have to learn how to remove you from you to see you clearly. Today's topic will be about history. And we're going to start out with facts. Most of the history that we know is based on trust and not facts. Those who gain from the history that we know exploited the lack of knowledge that we had based on what they claim. We'll start out with a topic such as slavery. Let's say we take 5 individuals and put them on a $20,000 bed, and we put them all together in this one bed, king size, in a room that is 36 by 36. And we're going to ventilate it poorly, but we're going to ventilate it. We're going to add central heating and air to the room that they will be in for the next 3 weeks. They all land in the bed. They cannot get out of the bed. They all have to share the bed, and they all also have to exchange bodily fluids. Now, within week 1, you know what happens? Urinating and defecating. What happens is you create bed sores. And then what happens when you create bed sores? If they're unattended, you become what they call sepsis. Your blood becomes contaminated. Your blood becomes infected. And so what happens when it's not only your own bodily fluids, but it's your friend or your loved one that's next to you whose body fluids are leaking in with yours, and now everyone have bed sores. So by week 3, you know what will happen? You all will pretty much be damned to death. There's no doubt about it. Now, let's say you put 50 on a boat with wood planks in which they are chained and laid in individual sections, top, bottom, lower, also depicted as being chained to walls. By the time they set sail on this boat and give them 2 hours of swaying back and forth with the ship laying on wood, you know what will happen? They won't be subject to bed sores so fast, but they will be subject to being chafed. And also defecation coming from each individual that's close to them. And mind you, they don't have central heating and air, and also the ventilation is still horrible. Being a boat that takes on water that's pretty much predominantly wood, you also have to deal with the black mold and all the other bacteria that grow down in the cargo hold of a ship. So the question is, why do you believe that your ancestors were loaded up on a boat and shipped across the sea and stayed healthy and was able to survive at the minimum 3-month voyage across the sea to come to these lands to be sold as slaves. Why do you believe that? That's the question. You have to trust the person who told you that that's what your history is based on. Trust, not facts, trust. There's a reason why the brain of the United States is called Washington, D.C. D.C. being the District of Columbia. British Columbia offered an apology to the slaves of these lands, not of Africa, but of these lands, because they said they didn't have to cross an ocean, but they just crossed through some woods. They crossed over into, then these lands were called Turtle Island. They crossed into these lands, and then they said they made slaves of the indigenous people of these lands that we call the United States. They made slaves of the indigenous people, and they identified the indigenous people as not the red-skinned Indians that you know from Hollywood, but they identified the indigenous people as people of color, black. And also those that were identified as red-skinned, it was merely because, like some of the animals do, they cover themselves in clay to prevent themselves from being burned by the sun and to prevent insect bites. So blacks would cover themselves in clay mud, and that gave them the appearance of red skin. But we believe, we trust that the history that we know is based on facts. So the question is, why do you believe that? Just something to ponder on, using your own mind and common sense. District of Columbia, that means that the United States runs through Washington, D.C. That's the brain of the United States. D.C., District of Columbia, means still belongs to British Columbia. And then taxation without representation, they said that the United States adopted the Parliament tax from the British Columbia. But guess what? The United States that we know is being leased. You'll never own the lands that you pay for all your life, because as soon as you meet your demise or anything happens, then guess what? Taxes are put in place so you can never own it, because you're leasing from the leaser. We are subleasers. We're leasing from someone else that's leasing from someone else who really owns these United States. The overall picture is, no matter what I say or what you believe, it doesn't change your social status today. You still have to live in the world that you live in today. One other thing I'd like to discuss is the conflict of the earth. When someone presents a difficult concept, it's easy to abandon the situation as a whole. An example, if you put a man on one end zone of a football field and expect he or she, I say man, but if you put a person at the end zone of a football field and you expect that person to jump in one leap from one end zone to the other, we see that as virtually impossible. There's no way it can be done unless it's Hollywood magic and you're going to hook strings or whatever. But in physical form, to walk out and do the leap merely under their own power, we see that as impossible. So it's easy to abort the concept of hearing someone doing it. That it's fascinating to think that it's possible. That brings us to the concept of the earth being round. We accept the earth being round because we don't have our facts, but we trust that those who told us that the earth is round and the layers that exist of the earth that we know, we believe what they say. So I have one question. Let's say that the world is as we know it, and we leave gravity intact. Gravity remains the same. I'm going to give an example, and I'm going to use my little friend here, Roddy Matthews. This is my little buddy here, Roddy Matthews. So what he's going to do is help me with a demonstration. Let's say that this is the earth. This is the earth as we know it. So we know that gravity holds us to the earth. So the concept of the earth being round, if gravity holds us to the earth, at what point does gravity surrender to allow us to be on the bottom of the earth and still be, as we say it, wrong side up, because your feet are then pointing at the sky opposite of the earth that you know, because it's round. So let's do this. It's easy for us to accept that the gravity pull will allow us to walk around the earth no matter what direction you go travel in. It's easy to accept that gravity will keep you binded to the earth to make it to the opposite side. And once you add the formula of difficulty, as in there's no way you can dig through the earth because you have the inner core, you have the outer core, and you have so many obstacles that will prevent you from traveling from top straight down through the earth. But let's leave gravity intact. And let's say gravity will remain the same. Gravity won't change, but let's say we do this. We do away with all the other stuff. When does gravity, and then you're able to go directly through the center of the earth, when does gravity surrender and to the point where you can make it to the opposite side of the earth, and gravity will surrender and recommit to have you wrong side up on the bottom of the earth? I mean, think about it. Once again, let's go. We're digging. Gravity surrender and allow you to go right side up. But then are you not digging right back down to where you started, to where gravity has to give back? There's no way gravity can surrender that will allow you to make it to the opposite side of the earth to be wrong side up. But the theory of the world being round and the world being flat, as long as you draw a line in the concept, there's always room for debate. So someone is pulling that the world is round, someone may be pulling that the world is flat. As long as there's room for debate, it will never go away. But if you look at it as a whole and you remove the difficulties of proving your point, the world can be round and also flat. Just something to show you our history, what we trust, how easily we trust. No matter what, you have to add your own common sense and your own mind to what you choose to believe. If you don't create your own history, then how do you know it's facts? I like to leave you with this. Always remember to remove you from you to see you clearly. And no matter what I say, never invest in merely what I say. I'm asking you to add your own mind and common sense to what I say, so it won't be what I say, it'll be what we say. Until the next time, let's keep acting the truth. I'm your host, Conversationalist Excel. Thank you.